Let's
3 minutes before her wedding,
Make
7
sure she
months
signs the
pregnant,
prenup before the
she
ceremony,
heard him say the
or
words
the
that
deal is
destroyed
off.
everything. She is so desperate to be loved, she never even questioned the prenup. What happens when the man you trust with your future is secretly planning to steal your baby, drain your bank accounts,
Ellie.
and disappear with his mistress?
Remember, the baby
This is not
belongs to
just a
me.
story about betrayal.
Don't disappoint me
This is
tonight.
a survival guide disguised as drama. You will learn how predators isolate their victims. You will see the red flags most women miss. And you will witness one woman's impossible fight to reclaim everything: her money, her dignity, her child, when the entire
Welcome to the
world
world,
believed his
little
lies
Hope.
over her truth.
She's absolutely
If you have ever
beautiful.
trusted the wrong person,
Your new
if you
beginning
have ever
starts
felt
now,
trapped,
dear.
if you have ever wondered how strong you really are, this story will answer that question. Stay until the end. The twist at the hospital will leave you speechless. And if this story saves even one woman from making the same mistake, then sharing it is not just support, it is protection. Like and subscribe. Someone you love might need to hear this. Let us begin. The chandelier lights inside the Belmont estate glowed like promises that evening. Warm, golden, impossibly perfect. Outside the tall windows, the Connecticut countryside stretched into autumn colors, and somewhere in the distance, a string quartet played Pachelbel's canon. Inside the bridal suite, Eleanor Monroe stood alone in a custom ivory gown, her hands resting gently on her 7-month pregnant belly. In less than 3 minutes, the doors would open. In less than 3 minutes, she would walk down the aisle and become Mrs. Marcus Whitfield. Ellie had planned hundreds of luxury weddings over the past decade, but this one, her own, felt almost surreal. She checked the time on her phone, 6:57 in the evening. Guests were already seated. Her mother was probably dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief. Everything was exactly as she had dreamed. She took a breath and stepped into the hallway, intending to find her fiancé and share one final quiet moment before the ceremony. That was when she heard his voice. Marcus was standing around the corner, his back turned, phone pressed to his ear. His tone was low, urgent, intimate in a way that made Ellie's stomach tighten. She stopped without thinking, her heels frozen against the marble floor. "No, not now," Marcus said softly. "After the ceremony. You know the timing matters." There was a pause. Ellie pressed herself against the wall, heart suddenly pounding. Then Marcus exhaled, a sound that carried irritation, not love. "Veronica, listen to me. This wedding is necessary. One appearance, one clean image. Then we do things our way." The name hit Ellie like a physical blow. Veronica, his business associate. The woman who always seemed to be at every dinner meeting, every conference call. She leaned closer, pulse roaring so loudly she feared he would hear it. Marcus paced, running a hand through his hair, the same gesture he used when negotiating contracts. "I told you the investors want stability, a wife, family optics. After that, I will handle the separation quietly. You will get what I promised." Ellie's vision blurred. Her hand found her belly instinctively, protectively. On the other end of the call, a woman laughed. Soft, confident, cruel. "Just do not forget who is really on your side," Veronica said. "I did not wait all this time to be your secret." Marcus lowered his voice even more. "You will not be. Just give me tonight. 3 more hours, baby. 3 hours and I will have access to everything, the inheritance, the business accounts." She is so desperate to be loved, she never even questioned the prenup. Ellie's knees threatened to buckle. Veronica's voice again, curious this time. "And the baby?" Marcus's response came without hesitation. "Insurance policy, in case she gets difficult during the divorce." The hallway tilted. Ellie pressed both hands against the wall to keep from collapsing. The baby inside her kicked, as if sensing her distress. "I have done this twice before," Marcus continued tenderly. "They never see it coming. After the settlement, we disappear. New state, new identities. Twice before." The words echoed in Ellie's head like a death sentence. 30 seconds. The wedding coordinator's voice drifted from the ballroom. 30 seconds. Everyone. 30 seconds ago, Ellie had been a bride preparing for the happiest moment of her life. Now she was standing in a hallway at the Belmont estate, wearing a gown that suddenly felt like a shroud, listening to the man she loved negotiate her entire existence like a business transaction. Her fingers curled into her palms as something cold and steady replaced the shock. She pulled out her phone. Her hands trembled, but she managed to open the voice memo app and hit record. Marcus was still talking. Veronica, after this is done, we take everything. The inheritance, her business, the accounts I had her add my name to. By the time she figures it out, there will be nothing left. Ellie recorded every word. When the call ended, Marcus slipped his phone into his jacket pocket and turned. He nearly collided with her. For half a second, his confident expression cracked. Then it reset. Smooth, practiced, reassuring. Lee, he said, smiling as if nothing had happened. There you are. Everyone is waiting. His voice was gentle, familiar, and completely false. She searched his face, hoping stupidly that she had misunderstood. That there was another Veronica, another explanation. But his eyes avoided hers for just a fraction of a second, and that was enough. Ellie knew that look. She had seen it in boardrooms when vendors hid bad news behind polished slides. I needed some air, she said calmly, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. Marcus nodded, relieved. Big moment, I get it. He reached for her hand, his palm warm, grounding once. Now it made her skin crawl. You ready? Ready, the word echoed like a dare. From the ballroom, applause erupted as guests settled into their seats. The string quartet began the opening notes. Time was moving forward whether Ellie was ready or not. She glanced past Marcus, catching her reflection in a mirrored column. The woman staring back looked flawless. Perfect hair, perfect dress, perfect bride. No one could see the fracture running straight through her chest. She gently withdrew her hand from his grip. I left something in the suite, she said. My vow card. Marcus frowned. You memorized them. I know, she replied, but I want it with me. A beat passed, then he smiled again. Of course, I will be right here. Ellie turned away before he could read her face. With each step, her heartbeat slowed, not from calm, but from focus. Panic would destroy her. Silence would protect her. She had planned weddings long enough to understand one brutal truth. Chaos favors the guilty, control favors the prepared. Inside the bridal suite, she locked the door and leaned against it, finally letting the weight crash down. Her breath came fast, shallow. She pressed a hand to her mouth to keep from screaming. The betrayal was not just emotional, it was strategic. He had not loved her, he had scheduled her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Grace Sullivan, her best friend and divorce attorney. Where are you? Ceremony starting. Ellie typed back with shaking fingers. Emergency, do not react. Come to bridal suite now. Grace Sullivan arrived within 90 seconds, her expression shifting from confusion to alarm the moment she saw Ellie's face. What happened? Grace demanded, closing the door behind her. Ellie could not form the words. Instead, she held up her phone and pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room. 3 more hours, baby. 3 hours and I will have access to everything. Grace's face drained of color as she listened. When the recording ended, neither woman spoke for a long moment. That son of a bitch, Grace finally whispered. Ellie's legs gave out. She sank onto the edge of a chair, her hand instinctively cradling her belly. He said he has done this twice before, Ellie managed. 2 other women. And Veronica, she is part of it. They are planning to take everything and disappear. Grace was already pulling out her own phone, her attorney mind switching into overdrive. Okay, first things first. We need to verify what he has access to. Can you log into your accounts? Ellie nodded and opened her banking app. Her fingers trembled as she entered her password. The screen loaded. Account frozen. Please contact customer service. No, Ellie breathed. She tried her business account. Same message. Her inheritance account, the $2.3 million her grandmother had left her. Account frozen. Please contact customer service. He anticipated this, Grace said grimly, reading over her shoulder. He filed fraud protection claims on your behalf this morning. Your signature is probably on the paperwork. I never signed anything, Ellie protested. Forged. Believable enough to trigger a temporary freeze while they investigate. Ellie checked her checking account, the only one still accessible. Balance, $47.32. She had $47. Her phone. and a baby due in 8 weeks. The room started to spin. I cannot breathe, Ellie gasped. I cannot breathe. The baby, oh God, the baby. Grace knelt in front of her, gripping her hands firmly. Look at me. Ellie, look at me. Ellie forced her eyes to focus on her friend's face. One breath, Grace said steadily. One decision. You cannot solve everything, but you can solve the next thing. Breathe with me. For the next 2 minutes, Grace talked her through the panic attack, her voice calm and unwavering. When Ellie's breathing finally stabilized, Grace helped her to her feet. Okay, Ellie said, her voice raw but determined. What do I do? Grace's expression was conflicted. You have the recording. You could expose him right now. Play it at the altar. Everyone would know. Ellie felt a surge of desperate hope. Yes, I will do it. I will play it when the pastor asks if anyone objects. I will let everyone hear what he really is. Grace hesitated. It could work, but Ellie, he could spin this. Pregnant women are emotional. You have been under a lot of stress. He could claim the recording is out of context, that you are having a mental breakdown. I do not care, Ellie said fiercely. I am not walking down that aisle and saying I do to a lie. She straightened her dress, checked her makeup in the mirror. Her eyes were red, but she could blame that on happy tears. I'm going to destroy him, she whispered. Grace nodded slowly. Then let us do it. Ellie walked out of the bridal suite with her phone clutched in her hand, the recording ready to play. Her heart pounded with a mixture of terror and righteousness. She was going to expose Marcus Whitfield in front of everyone who mattered to him. His investors, his family, his friends. She was going to watch his carefully constructed world crumble. As she approached the ballroom, she could hear the music swelling. The doors were still closed. She had maybe 30 seconds before her cue, and that was when Marcus stepped out of the shadows. He was smiling, but his eyes were cold. There you are, beautiful, he said softly. I was worried. His hand closed around her wrist, not romantic, controlling. I saw you in the hallway, Ellie, he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. I know you heard. Her blood turned to ice. Here is what is going to happen, Marcus said pleasantly. You are going to walk down that aisle, say I do, and smile, because if you do not... He leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. I will tell everyone you have been mentally unstable throughout the pregnancy. Mood swings, paranoid delusions. I have texts from your mother confirming it. She has been very concerned about you. Ellie's heart stopped. Her own mother. And Veronica? Marcus continued. She is a licensed psychologist. She will testify that you are unfit. Who do you think they will believe, Ellie? A hysterical pregnant woman? Or a concerned husband and a medical professional? He straightened her veil with gentle fingers. The custody paperwork is already drafted. If you make a scene, I will have our baby taken from you before the umbilical cord is cut. Ellie could not move, could not speak. Now smile, sweetheart, Marcus said warmly. Our guests are waiting. The ballroom doors began to open, flooding the hallway with golden light. And Ellie realized with devastating clarity that the trap had already closed. The ballroom doors opened, and 300 faces turned toward Ellie with expectant smiles. She could not feel her legs as she stepped forward. The music swelled around her like a beautiful lie, and somewhere in the crowd her mother was crying happy tears, the same mother who had betrayed her. Ellie walked down the aisle in a dissociative haze, her body moving through the motions while her mind screamed silently. Every face looked like a trap, every smile felt like mockery. She spotted Veronica Lane seated in the third row, wearing an elegant charcoal dress that passed easily as wedding appropriate. When their eyes met, Veronica smiled, a small, confident curve of the lips, as if sharing a private joke. There it was. The final confirmation. Marcus waited at the altar, his expression radiating love and pride. The perfect groom, the perfect performance. When Ellie reached him, he took her hands in his. His grip was firm, just slightly too tight. You look beautiful, he whispered. She wanted to vomit. Pastor Michael Torres began the ceremony, his voice warm and practiced. Ellie heard almost none of it. She was too busy cataloging escape routes, calculating options, finding none. If she ran, Marcus would destroy her reputation. If she stayed silent, Marcus would steal everything. If she exposed him, he would take her baby. There was no winning move. Do you, Marcus, take Eleanor to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do, Marcus said, his voice ringing with false sincerity. And do you, Eleanor, take Marcus to be your lawfully wedded husband? The room fell silent. 300 people leaned forward. Ellie opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Marcus's fingers tightened around hers. A warning. I do, she whispered. The words tasted like poison. Marcus's smile widened. He had won. He knew it, and she knew it. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. The kiss felt like drowning. The reception that followed was a blur of champagne toasts and congratulations. Ellie smiled until her face ached. She accepted hugs from people who had no idea they were celebrating her funeral. At one point, her elderly Aunt Dorothy approached Marcus with a casserole dish in her hands. You seem like such a nice young man, Dorothy said sweetly. Thank you, ma'am, Marcus replied with practiced charm. My third husband seemed nice too, Dorothy continued. He is buried in the backyard. She winked at Ellie and walked away. Marcus laughed nervously, but Ellie saw the flicker of unease in his eyes. It was the only moment of satisfaction she felt all night. Later, as the guests filtered out and the staff began clearing tables, Grace found Ellie in a quiet corner. I have been making calls, Grace said quietly. The freeze on your accounts was filed this morning at 8:15. Marcus used a power of attorney document you supposedly signed 3 weeks ago. I never signed any power of attorney, Ellie said. I know, but proving forgery takes time, and right now he controls everything. Ellie felt the last ember of hope flickering out. What do I do, Grace? Her friend's expression was grim. Right now, you survive. You play along, and you document everything. Every conversation, every threat, every piece of evidence. We build a case slowly, carefully. And when we have enough, we strike. How long will that take? Grace hesitated. I do not know. Weeks, maybe months. Ellie closed her eyes. Months of living with a monster. Months of pretending to be a happy wife. Months of watching him control every aspect of her life. But what choice did she have? Okay, she said finally. I will do it. Grace squeezed her hand. You are stronger than you know, Ellie. And you are not alone. I will be with you every step of the way. It was the only comfort Ellie had as Marcus appeared at her side, wrapping a possessive arm around her waist. Ready for our honeymoon, Mrs. Whitfield? He asked cheerfully. Ellie forced a smile. Ready. She was not ready. She was terrified. But she was also beginning to understand something important. Marcus had underestimated her. He saw her kindness as weakness, her trust as stupidity, her love as leverage. He was wrong, and one day she would make him pay for that mistake. The cabin in Vermont looked like something from a romance novel. Nestled in the mountains, surrounded by autumn foliage, with smoke curling from a stone chimney and a private lake reflecting the sunset. Under different circumstances, Ellie would have loved it. Now it felt like a prison. No cell service out here, Marcus said cheerfully, as they pulled up the gravel driveway. Just you, me, and nature. We can really connect without any distractions. He reached over and plucked her phone from her hands. I will keep this safe, he said. You do not need it. Ellie's heart sank. No phone, no car keys, which Marcus had pocketed. No neighbors for miles. No way to contact Grace or anyone else. The first 5 days were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Marcus was charming during meals, attentive during walks around the property, loving in his words and gestures. But underneath the performance, the control was absolute. He monitored everything she ate, claiming it was for the baby's health. He chose what she wore, what she watched, what she read. He decided when they slept and when they woke. And when Ellie tried to bring up what she had heard in the hallway, he gaslit her with practiced precision. Veronica's a business partner, he said patiently. I was discussing investment strategies. You are being hormonal, sweetheart. The pregnancy is making you paranoid. I heard what you said, Ellie insisted. You called me an insurance policy. Marcus's expression shifted to wounded concern. I would never say something like that. Ellie, you are scaring me. Maybe we should talk to someone when we get back. A therapist. Someone who can help you work through these delusions. He made her call her mother on speakerphone, and Mama June's voice echoed through the cabin. Honey, Marcus told me you have been confused. Just rest. Let him take care of you. Her own mother, believing him over her. Ellie wanted to scream the truth, but Marcus was right there, listening to every word. If she said anything, he would know, and he would use it against her. So she played along. She agreed that she was probably just stressed. She apologized for overreacting. She let him believe he had won. But at night, when Marcus slept, Ellie did not. She found scraps of paper in the cabin, receipts, old shopping lists, the backs of envelopes, and she wrote down everything. Dates, times, exact quotes, details of his controlling behavior, evidence of financial manipulation. She folded the papers small and hid them in her bra, the one place Marcus would not think to check. Documentation. Proof. Weapons for a war she was only beginning to understand. On the sixth day, they returned to the city, back to the beautiful townhouse that Marcus had bought with her money, back to the life that looked perfect from the outside and felt like suffocation from within. That first week home, Marcus announced that Ellie needed a new obstetrician. Dr. Morrison is fine, Ellie protested. Dr. Morrison is overbooked, Marcus countered. I've found someone better. Dr. Caroline Mercer. She specializes in high-risk pregnancies. Ellie had no choice but to agree. The appointment was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Dr. Mercer was a tall woman with sharp features and a professional smile. She conducted the examination with clinical efficiency, asking questions about Ellie's stress levels, her sleep patterns, her emotional state. Too many questions about her emotional state. Your husband mentioned you have been experiencing some mood disturbances, Dr. Mercer said casually while reviewing her chart. Ellie's blood ran cold. What exactly did he tell you? Just that you have been under a lot of stress, confusion, paranoid thoughts. He is very concerned about your well-being. The doctor made a note in the file. I am going to recommend a psychiatric evaluation before delivery, just to make sure you are mentally prepared for motherhood. Ellie understood immediately what was happening. They were building a case, not for divorce, for custody. Marcus was going to have her declared unfit before the baby was even born. She tried to call Grace when she got home, but her phone was dead. Marcus had disconnected it. She tried to drive to Grace's office, but her car was gone. I sold it, Marcus explained when she asked. You do not need it. You should be resting, not driving around town. Bad for the baby. No phone, no car, no money, no allies. Ellie stood alone in the kitchen that evening, 8 months pregnant, watching her husband eat dinner while discussing their baby's future with his mother on speakerphone. Patricia Whitfield's voice was smug and certain. Once the psychological evaluation comes back, we will have everything we need. That baby will never call her mommy. Marcus laughed. Patience, mother, we are almost there. Ellie had never felt more invisible in her life. She went to bed that night and stared at the ceiling for hours, her hand resting on her belly. The baby kicked, a tiny foot pressing against her palm. I'm going to get us out of this, Ellie whispered in the darkness. I do not know how yet, but I promise you I will not let them win. It was a promise she intended to keep. She just did not know how. The doorbell rang at exactly 2:17 in the afternoon. Ellie was sitting in the living room, staring at nothing, wearing the same yoga pants she had worn for 3 days straight. Her hair was unwashed. Her eyes were hollow. The baby inside her kicked constantly now, as if sensing her mother's distress. Marcus looked up from his laptop with annoyance. Who the hell is that? We are not expecting anyone. He walked to the door and opened it to find Aunt Dorothy Caldwell standing on the porch, holding a ceramic casserole dish covered in aluminum foil. I brought tuna noodle, Dorothy announced cheerfully. Family recipe. 4 generations of Caldwell women have made this casserole, and every single one of them outlived their husbands. Marcus's smile was thin and forced. Dorothy, what a surprise. That is the beauty of being 83 years old, Dorothy said, pushing past him into the house like she owned it. Nobody expects anything from you. They just assume you are senile and let you do whatever you want. She spotted Ellie on the couch and her expression flickered. Just for a moment, just enough for Ellie to see concern beneath the cheerful facade. Good Lord, child. You look like something the cat dragged in and then dragged back out again. Dorothy settled onto the couch beside her niece, patting her knee with a wrinkled hand. Are you eating? Sleeping? Taking your vitamins? She has been under a lot of stress, Marcus interjected smoothly, positioning himself between them. The pregnancy has been difficult. Mood swings, anxiety, some confusion. I was not asking you, young man. Dorothy's voice was pleasant, but her eyes were sharp. I was asking my niece, the one carrying my great-great-niece or nephew. The one who looks like she has not seen sunlight in a month. Marcus's jaw tightened. I am just trying to help. Then help by putting this casserole in the refrigerator. It needs to stay cold or the mayonnaise goes bad, and nobody wants food poisoning on top of everything else. For a long moment, Marcus did not move. His eyes darted between Dorothy and Ellie, calculating, suspicious. But refusing would look strange. And Marcus Whitfield never did anything that looked strange. Of course, he said finally. I will be right back. The moment he disappeared into the kitchen, Dorothy moved with speed that belied her age. She grabbed Ellie's hand and pressed something into her palm, something small, rectangular, hard plastic. Burner phone, Dorothy whispered urgently. Prepaid. Untraceable. I bought it with cash at a gas station 3 towns over. Charger is wrapped in foil inside the casserole dish. Ellie's heart slammed against her ribs. Aunt Dorothy, how did you? Hush, listen to me. Dorothy's grip tightened. I have been married 4 times. I know what a trapped woman looks like. I know the eyes, the posture, the way you flinch when he walks into a room. Tears welled in Ellie's eyes. I do not know what to do, she breathed. He has everything. He controls everything. My money, my phone, my car. Even Mama believes him over me. Your mama is a fool who has always been blinded by a handsome face and a smooth tongue. That is why she married your father, God rest his soul, and that is why she fell for this snake's act. Dorothy's eyes bored into hers. But you are not your mama. You are your grandmother's granddaughter. And Eleanor Caldwell Monroe did not raise weak women. Footsteps approached from the kitchen. Your friend Grace has been calling me every day, Dorothy said rapidly. She has been digging. His real name, his past, the other women. She has found things. Important things. Other women? You are not the first child, not by a long shot. Marcus's shadow appeared in the doorway. Dorothy immediately transformed, her posture softening, her expression becoming vague and dotty. And that is why I always add a little paprika to the sauce, she was saying when Marcus entered. Gives it that extra kick. My third husband loved paprika. Of course, he also loved bourbon and gambling and women half his age, which is why he is buried in the backyard. She cackled at her own joke. Marcus forced a laugh. You are quite a character, Dorothy. That is what my fourth husband said right before the heart attack. She winked at Ellie. Men are so fragile, you know, their hearts just give out at the most convenient times. After Dorothy left, Marcus watched Ellie with suspicious eyes. What did she really want? To bring casserole. Ellie's voice was flat, emotionless. She is old and lonely. Old people get lonely. When she seemed very interested in talking to you alone. She wanted to tell me about her dead husbands. That is all she ever talks about. Dead husbands and casseroles. Marcus studied her for a long moment, searching for deception, probing for weakness. Ellie kept her face blank, her breathing steady, her hand casual over the phone hidden in her waistband. Finally, he nodded. Stay away from her. She seems unstable. Of course, Zebu. That night, Ellie waited until Marcus's breathing deepened into sleep. Then she waited another hour just to be safe. At 2:37 in the morning, she crept into the bathroom with the burner phone clutched against her chest like a lifeline. Her hands trembled so badly she could barely type. Grace, it is Ellie. I am okay. What did you find? The response came within 3 minutes. Oh, thank God. I have been trying to reach you for weeks. Dorothy said she would find a way. Are you safe? Safe enough. For now, tell me everything. What followed made Ellie's blood run cold. His real name is Marcus Reddington. Born in Columbus, Ohio, he has done this before, at least twice that we can confirm. Ellie read the words 3 times. Who were they? Sarah Holloway, Cleveland, 2018, lost $800,000, had a complete mental breakdown, spent 6 months in a psychiatric facility because nobody believed her. And the second, Jennifer Dunn, Sacramento, 2020, lost 1.2 million. Her family thought she was crazy too. She tried to fight back, but he had covered his tracks too well. She lost everything, her money, her house, her children. Ellie's hand flew to her mouth. Her children? He got custody, claimed she was an unfit mother, had doctors and lawyers and judges all believing his lies. She has not seen her kids in 3 years. The bathroom started spinning. That was his plan for her. Not just to steal her money, to steal her baby. There is more, Grace continued. Veronica Lane is not a licensed psychologist. Her credentials are completely forged. We have verification from the state licensing board. She has never been certified. Ever. The woman who was supposed to testify that Ellie was mentally unfit was a fraud. A tiny spark of hope flickered in Ellie's chest. What else? The prenup you signed it has a fraud clause, Section 14, Paragraph 3. If either party can prove the other deceived them about material facts prior to the marriage, the entire agreement is void. Everything reverts to the deceived party. Ellie read the message again. If she could prove Marcus had lied to her, she would get everything back. Her money, her business, her freedom. How do we prove it? Documentation. Testimony from the other victims. Financial records showing where your money went. And we need a forensic accountant who can trace the offshore transfers. Daniel Reeves, Ellie typed. He was at the wedding. I saw him watching Marcus during the reception. He looks suspicious. I know Daniel, he is legitimate, and he owes me a favor from law school. I will reach out tomorrow. A plan was forming, fragile, dangerous, but real. What do I do now? Keep playing along, document everything, every threat, every controlling behavior, every piece of evidence. Write it down and hide it where he will never find it. And most importantly, Ellie, stay safe. We cannot build a case if you are not alive to testify. Ellie powered off the phone and hid it behind a loose tile in the bathroom wall. For the first time in weeks, the weight on her chest felt slightly lighter. She had allies. She had evidence. She had hope. But she also had 8 more weeks of pregnancy, 8 more weeks of living with a monster, 8 more weeks of pretending to be the perfect, broken, controllable wife. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. You can do this, she whispered. For hope, for yourself. You can do this. She had no idea how wrong she was about the timeline, because Marcus was already suspicious, and the next 72 hours would shatter everything. The call came 3 days later. Ellie was alone in the house. Marcus had left for a meeting downtown, kissing her forehead and reminding her to rest. His concern was so convincing that she almost believed it herself, almost. The moment his car disappeared around the corner, she retrieved the burner phone from its hiding place. There was a message from Grace. Sarah and Jennifer both agreed to testify. Daniel found the offshore accounts. 1.8 million in the Caymans, another 500,000 in Switzerland. We have him, Ellie. We have everything we need. Ellie's heart soared. How soon can we move? 2 weeks, maybe 3. The FBI wants to coordinate with state authorities. They are building a federal case. Federal case, the words hit differently now. This was not just a divorce. This was prison. Real, serious, decades in federal prison consequences. For the first time, Ellie allowed herself to imagine it. Marcus in handcuffs, Marcus in an orange jumpsuit, Marcus behind bars while she raised their daughter in freedom and safety. She was so lost in the fantasy that she almost missed Grace's next message. There is one more thing. We need someone close to him to flip. Someone with inside knowledge. Someone he trusts. Who? Veronica Lane. Ellie's stomach turned. She will never help us. She is part of this. Maybe, maybe not. Daniel discovered something interesting. Marcus has been transferring money out of accounts Veronica thought she had access to. He is planning to cut her loose too. The mistress was being played just like the wife. There was a certain poetic justice to that. Do you want me to reach out to her? Grace asked. No, let me think about it. Ellie put down the phone and stared at the wall. Veronica Lane, the woman who had laughed on that phone call. The woman who had sat in the 3rd row at her wedding, smirking. The woman who had helped Marcus plan her destruction. Could she really ally herself with that monster? But before Ellie could decide, her burner phone buzzed again. This time it was not Grace. Unknown number. She opened the message. I know what he did to you. I know because he did it to me too. If you want to survive this, call me. Jennifer Dunn. A phone number followed. Ellie's hands shook as she dialed. A woman answered on the second ring. Eleanor? Yes. How did you get this number? Grace gave it to me. I hope that is okay. Jennifer's voice was tired, worn down by years of fighting. She said you might need to hear this from someone who has been through it. She was right. Then let me tell you what he did to me, and what he is going to do to you if you do not stop him first. For the next 45 minutes, Ellie listened. Jennifer Dunn's story was a horror movie, the whirlwind romance, the quick engagement, the financial entanglement that happened so gradually she did not notice until it was too late. Then the gaslighting, the isolation, the doctors who documented her instability without ever questioning why she was falling apart, and finally the custody battle. He took my children, Jennifer said, her voice cracking. Twin boys. They were 4 years old. He convinced the court I was an unfit mother, had doctors testify that I was delusional, paranoid, potentially dangerous. Oh my God. I have not seen them in 3 years, Eleanor. 3 years. I do not even know what they look like anymore. Their father, that monster, has full custody, and I have nothing. Ellie's hand moved instinctively to her belly. He is gonna do the same thing to me. Yes, he is, unless you stop him first. How? Documentation, evidence, allies, and most importantly, you need to strike before he does. The moment he realizes you are a threat, he will move fast. He will have you committed, have the baby taken, have you declared incompetent. You will never recover. How do you know when to strike? You do not. You just have to be ready, and you have to be smarter than he is. The call ended with Jennifer promising to testify and Ellie promising to be careful. But careful was not enough, because that evening Ellie made a mistake, a small mistake, an understandable mistake, but a mistake that would cost her everything. She called her mother, not to beg for help, she knew better than that now, but to test how deep the manipulation ran, to understand exactly what she was up against. Hello? Mama, it is me. Silence, then cautiously, Eleanor, you are calling from a different number. My phone broke, Mama, I need to talk to you about something important. She could hear her mother's hesitation. Honey, Marcus told me you might try to contact me from unknown numbers. He said it is part of your pattern. My pattern? The paranoid episodes, the mood swings. He has been so worried about you, sweetheart. We all have. Ellie gripped the phone tighter. Mama, listen to me. Marcus is not who you think he is. He stole my money. All of it. He has isolated me from everyone who could help me, and he is planning to take my baby. Silence. Then Mama June's voice, sad and tired. Oh, Eleanor, you have always been so dramatic. Ever since you were a little girl, making mountains out of molehills. This is not drama, Mama. This is real. His name is not even Marcus Whitfield. His real name is Marcus Reddington. He has done this to other women, 2 others that we know of. He destroyed their lives. Marcus warned me you would say exactly that. Ellie's blood turned to ice. What? He said you had been researching things online, conspiracy theories, that you had convinced yourself he was some kind of criminal mastermind. Mama June's sigh was heavy with disappointment. Honey, I know the pregnancy has been hard. I know you have anxiety, but this has gone too far. Mama, please. Marcus has already filed paperwork, emergency custody provisions in case you become unstable after the birth. It is for the baby's protection, Eleanor. We all just want what is best for that child. The floor dropped out from under Ellie's feet. You helped him. You helped him file against me. I signed some papers as a character witness. Marcus explained that it was just a precaution, just in case. Mama, he is going to use those papers to take my daughter away from me. Now you are being paranoid again. See, this is exactly what he was talking about. Click. The line went dead. Ellie stood in the bathroom, phone in her shaking hand, and felt something inside her break. Not crack, not fracture, break completely. Her mother, the woman who had raised her, the woman who had promised to always love her, always protect her, always believe in her, had signed papers to help a con man steal her grandchild. Ellie sank to the floor. The tiles were cold against her legs. The baby kicked frantically inside her, sensing distress. Her breath came in ragged gasps that sounded like drowning. She thought about the documents hidden in the bathroom wall, the burner phone, the plan that Grace was building. But what did any of it matter? Marcus had her mother, he had the courts, he had doctors and lawyers and character witnesses. He had a paper trail that made her look insane. She had testimony from women nobody believed and evidence that would take weeks to organize. Weeks she might not have. For a long, terrible moment, Ellie considered giving up. She opened the Notes app on the burner phone. To whoever finds this, my name is Eleanor Monroe. I was trapped by a man named Marcus Reddington, who pretended to be Marcus Whitfield. He married me to steal my inheritance and destroy my life. If you are reading this, something has happened to me. Please make sure my daughter knows I loved her. Please make sure she knows I fought as hard as I could. Her thumb hovered over the send button. The baby kicked. Hard, insistent, demanding. Ellie looked down at her belly, at the small foot pressing against her skin from the inside. Her daughter. Her hope. Depending on her to survive. She deleted the message. "You are right," she whispered. "We are not done yet." She typed a new message to Grace. "My mother is compromised. Marcus has emergency custody papers ready. We need to move faster." The response came immediately. "How much faster?" "As fast as possible. Days, not weeks. I will make some calls." "Hold on, Ellie. Just hold on a little longer." Ellie hid the phone and climbed to her feet. Her legs were shaking. Her heart was broken. Her faith in her family was destroyed. But she was still standing, and as long as she was standing, she could fight. The next 3 weeks were the longest of Ellie's life. She played the role of devoted wife with the desperation of a woman on death row. She smiled at Marcus over breakfast. She agreed with his opinions about baby names. She let him rub her feet and read parenting books aloud and plan a nursery she never intended to use. Every night, after he fell asleep, she documented every threat, every controlling comment, every piece of evidence that showed who he really was. She wrote in a notebook she kept hidden in a box of tampons, the one place she knew Marcus would never look. She photographed documents when he left them on his desk. She memorized account numbers, passwords, contact information. And slowly, carefully, the case came together. Sarah Holloway provided a sworn statement describing her ordeal in devastating detail. Jennifer Dunn flew to Connecticut to meet with federal investigators in person. She cried when she told her story, and even the hardened FBI agents looked shaken. Daniel Reeves traced the money with forensic precision. 1.8 million to the Caymans, 500,000 to Switzerland, another 300,000 to a shell company in Delaware. And Veronica Lane, the woman Ellie had hated more than anyone, made a decision that changed everything. She flipped. The details came through Grace in fragments. Marcus had been stealing from Veronica too, moving money out of accounts she thought were shared, planning to disappear without her, just like he planned to disappear without Ellie. When Veronica confronted him, he laughed. "You think you are special," he had said. "You are version 4. There will be a version 5. Then he threatened her, reminded her that her fake psychology credentials were crimes too, told her that if she ever testified against him, he would make sure she went to prison right alongside him. But Veronica was smarter than Marcus gave her credit for. She had been making copies for years, recording conversations, saving emails, building an insurance policy against the day he inevitably betrayed her. Now that insurance policy was in the hands of federal prosecutors. 2 days before Ellie's due date, Grace called with news that made her heart stop. "It is happening. Tomorrow, the FBI is coordinating with local police. When you go into labor, authorities will be waiting at the hospital. Marcus will be arrested on federal charges the moment you are safely in the delivery room." Ellie closed her eyes. "It is really happening. It is really happening. This nightmare is almost over, Ellie. You just need to hold on for one more day." One more day. 24 hours. She could survive 24 hours. That night, Ellie packed a secret bag and hid it in the back of the closet. Baby clothes, her real identification, the notebook full of evidence. Everything she would need for her new life. She lay in bed beside Marcus, listening to him breathe, counting down the hours. The baby kicked restlessly. "Almost there, little one," Ellie whispered, her hand on her belly. "Almost free." She did not sleep at all. At 6:47 the next morning, her water broke. For a moment, Ellie felt only joy. This was it. The baby was coming. The plan was in motion. By this time tomorrow, Marcus would be in handcuffs, and she would be holding her daughter. Marcus drove her to the hospital with convincing concern. "Breathe through the contractions," he coached. "I am right here with you. Everything is going to be perfect." Perfect. The word tasted like poison. When they arrived at the hospital, Ellie scanned the lobby for Grace, for police, for any sign that the plan was proceeding. She saw nothing. No Grace, no authorities, no FBI agents. Just nurses and orderlies and other expectant mothers, none of whom knew what was supposed to happen. They wheeled her into the delivery room. Dr. Mercer was waiting, the fraudulent psychologist who was supposed to testify against her. Ellie's heart began to race. Something was wrong. Marcus helped her into the bed, adjusted her pillows, held her hand through the first real contractions. He was playing the devoted father so perfectly that the nurses smiled at him, and then he leaned close and whispered words that destroyed everything. "Did you really think I did not notice the burner phone?" Ellie's blood turned to ice. "The late-night bathroom trips, the sudden calm, the way you stopped fighting me." His smile was warm, but his eyes were dead. "You were so careful, Ellie, but not careful enough." "How, yeah. Your friend Grace has a paralegal named Megan Crawford. Megan has a gambling problem. $40,000 in debt to people who do not accept payment plans." He chuckled softly. "She was very cooperative. Showed me everything. Every message, every contact, every piece of your pathetic little plan." A contraction hit. Ellie screamed from pain and from despair. "Sarah Holloway received a cease and desist this morning," Marcus continued pleasantly. "Her lawyer advised her that testifying would expose her to defamation liability. She has withdrawn her statement." "No." "Jennifer Dunn received a call from her ex-husband's attorney. Apparently her custody agreement is being reviewed. If she testifies, she might lose visitation rights entirely." Tears streamed down Ellie's face. "Daniel Reeves, I am his biggest client's business partner. One phone call and his career is over." He will not say a word. Another contraction. Ellie gripped the bed rails until her knuckles turned white. "And Veronica." Marcus's smile widened. "Poor, stupid Veronica. She actually thought I did not know about her little insurance policy. She has been dealt with." "What did you do to her?" "Nothing permanent. Just reminded her of what happens to women who betray me." He squeezed Ellie's hand. Hard, grinding the bones together. "Now have our baby, sweetheart. And remember what I told you on our wedding day." His lips brushed her ear. "I always win." The next 8 hours were a blur of agony. Contractions came faster and harder. Nurses bustled in and out. Dr. Mercer monitored the baby's heartbeat with clinical detachment. And Marcus sat beside the bed, holding Ellie's hand, performing the role of loving husband with Oscar-worthy precision. Every time she screamed, he looked concerned. Every time she cried, he wiped her tears. Every time she begged for someone to help her, the nurses patted her arm and assured her that everything was fine. Nobody believed her. Nobody would ever believe her. At 11:43 in the evening, Hope Monroe Whitfield entered the world. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Perfect. Healthy. Beautiful. The nurse placed the baby in Ellie's arms, and for one suspended moment, nothing else existed. Just her daughter. Her Hope. 10 tiny fingers. 10 tiny toes. A face that looked like a promise. Ellie held her baby and cried. Not from joy, from terror. Because she knew with absolute certainty that Marcus was going to take this child away from her. And there was nothing she could do to stop him. The hospital room was dark except for a single lamp beside Ellie's bed. Hope slept in the bassinet, making soft newborn sounds. Marcus had finally gone home to shower and change, promising to return first thing in the morning. Ellie stared at the ceiling and tried to remember how to breathe. Everything was destroyed, every ally neutralized, every escape route sealed. She had lost. Her phone buzzed, the hospital phone, the one on the bedside table that she had barely looked at since arriving. A text from an unknown number. Pastor Torres has something for you. Ask for confession. Ellie read the message 3 times. Pastor Michael Torres, the minister who had officiated her wedding. She remembered the way he had looked at her during the ceremony. Concerned, watchful, like a man who sensed something deeply wrong. Hope stirred in her bassinet. I do not know what this means, baby girl, Ellie whispered, but I am going to find out. She pressed the call button. When the nurse arrived, Ellie asked for Pastor Torres. He is on the hospital chaplain rotation tonight, the nurse said. I can ask if he is available. Please tell him Eleanor Monroe needs confession. The nurse looked confused but agreed. 20 minutes later, there was a soft knock at the door. Pastor Torres entered quietly, carrying a Bible and wearing the same gentle expression she remembered from the wedding. Mrs. Monroe, he said, closing the door behind him. Or should I say Mrs. Whitfield? Monroe, gay. Please, I do not want his name anymore. Torres nodded and settled into the chair beside her bed. I have been praying for you since the wedding, he said softly. I have been a pastor for 30 years. I have seen love, and I have seen performance. What I witnessed at your ceremony was a woman walking into a trap she could not escape. Ellie's eyes filled with tears. Why did you not say anything? What could I have said? Stop the wedding? No one would have believed me. They would have thought I was senile or meddling or crazy. He paused, but I did something else instead. He reached into his jacket and produced a sealed envelope. The night before your wedding, a woman came to me. She was crying, shaking. She said she had done terrible things and needed to confess, but she was too scared to go to the police. Who was it? Veronica Lane. Ellie's breath caught. She told me everything, Torres continued. The scheme, the forged documents, the offshore accounts, the other victims. Marcus's real identity. He held out the envelope, and she wrote it all down. Ellie took the envelope with trembling hands. I could not share this with anyone, Torres explained. The seal of confession is sacred. What someone tells me in confession stays with me forever, unless they choose to release me from that obligation. And Veronica released you? Yesterday, after Marcus threatened her one too many times, after she realized he was planning to destroy her the same way he destroyed everyone else. Ellie opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, pages and pages of careful, detailed writing describing every crime Marcus had committed. Names, dates, account numbers, co-conspirators, and at the bottom Veronica's signature, notarized by a witness. This is a legal confession, Ellie breathed. Yes, admissible in court. Veronica also made copies of all her documentation. Recordings, emails, financial records, everything Marcus thought he had destroyed. Where is she now? Witness protection. The FBI picked her up 2 days ago. She is cooperating fully in exchange for immunity. Ellie looked up sharply. The FBI? I thought Marcus shut down the investigation. He shut down the part of the investigation he knew about. But there was another investigation, one that had been building for months before you even met him. Pastor Torres' expression was grave. Marcus Reddington has been on the FBI's radar since 2019. They just could never get enough evidence to move forward. Victims who recanted, witnesses who disappeared, documents that were destroyed. Until now, Veronica's confession, combined with the evidence she preserved, gives them everything they need. Torres paused. But they also need you, Eleanor. Your testimony, your documentation, your willingness to stand up in court and tell the truth. Ellie looked at her sleeping daughter. When? Tomorrow. When Marcus comes to take you home, federal agents will be waiting. He will be arrested in this hospital, in front of witnesses, with no opportunity to run or destroy evidence. Tears streamed down Ellie's face. What about the paralegal? Megan? She told him everything. Megan Crawford has been arrested for obstruction of justice. She is facing 5 years in federal prison. Torres allowed himself a small smile. Apparently, gambling debts make people cooperative in multiple directions. And Sarah? Jennifer, Daniel, all safe. Marcus's threats were empty. He has no power anymore. His empire is crumbling, and by this time tomorrow, he will be in handcuffs. Ellie clutched Veronica's confession to her chest. For weeks, she had believed she was alone, that everyone had abandoned her, that there was no hope and no escape. But all along, the trap had been closing around Marcus, not her. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for keeping this safe, for believing me, for caring. Pastor Torres reached out and squeezed her hand. You did the hard part, Eleanor. You survived. You documented. You refused to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. His eyes were kind. That takes a strength most people do not have. Hope stirred in her bassinet, letting out a small cry. Ellie picked up her daughter and held her close. It is almost over, baby girl, she whispered. One more day. Just one more day. Pastor Torres rose to leave. Get some rest, Mrs. Monroe. Tomorrow is going to be a very important day. He paused at the door. And may God bless you and your daughter. You both deserve every happiness this life can offer. When he was gone, Ellie read Veronica's confession again. Then she held Hope against her chest and finally, for the first time in months, allowed herself to sleep. The morning of Ellie's hospital discharge dawned bright and clear. Autumn sunlight streamed through the windows, painting golden stripes across the floor. Hope slept peacefully in her bassinet, unaware that the most important day of her mother's life was about to begin. Ellie sat on the edge of the bed, dressed and ready. She had brushed her hair for the first time in days, put on actual clothes instead of a hospital gown, even applied a little makeup, not to look pretty, but to look strong, to look like a woman who was ready to face whatever came next. At 9:15, Marcus arrived. He burst through the door carrying balloons and flowers and a giant teddy bear, playing the proud new father to perfection. There are my girls, he said warmly, bending to kiss Ellie's forehead. How are you feeling? Ready to go home? Almost, Ellie said. There is some discharge paperwork they need me to sign first. Of course, of course. Marcus settled into the chair beside her bed, checking his phone. I rearranged the nursery while you were here. Moved the crib to the window so she can see the trees. I think she is going to love it. Ellie watched him talk about their daughter's future with a face full of love and plans, so convincing, so perfectly performed. She wondered if he had rehearsed. Marcus, she said quietly. He looked up. Yes, sweetheart. Do you remember what you told me on our wedding day, right before I walked down the aisle? His smile flickered, just for a second. I told you how beautiful you looked. After that, in the hallway, when you grabbed my wrist and told me what would happen if I made a scene, the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. I do not know what you are talking about, Marcus said carefully. You said you always win. You said no one would believe me. You said you would take my baby and destroy my reputation and leave me with nothing. Marcus's eyes darted to the door. Ellie, you are confused. The delivery was traumatic. You are probably experiencing some postpartum. I am not confused. Ellie stood up slowly, her voice calm and clear. Your name is Marcus Reddington. You were born in Columbus, Ohio. You have defrauded at least 3 women before me, stealing a combined total of over $4 million. You use whirlwind romances and fake love to gain access to their finances. Then you gaslight them, isolate them, and destroy them when they try to fight back. Marcus's face went white. Sarah Holloway, Jennifer Dunn, and now me. Ellie picked up Hope from the bassinet and held her close. But you made one mistake. Lee, you underestimated how many people you hurt. You thought you silenced everyone. You thought you had won. The door opened. A woman in a dark suit stepped into the room, followed by 2 uniformed officers. Her badge caught the sunlight. Marcus Reddington, she said crisply. I am Special Agent Sandra Wilkins with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You are under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, and financial exploitation across multiple state lines. Marcus lunged, not toward the agents, toward Ellie, toward Hope. You bitch, he screamed. You stupid, ungrateful. 2 officers tackled him before he took 3 steps. His face hit the floor with a crack that echoed through the room. Blood splattered from his nose across the white linoleum. Get off me, Marcus screamed as they cuffed him. I have rights. I have lawyers. This is wrongful arrest. Save it for your arraignment, Agent Wilkins said flatly. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. Hope started crying at the noise. Ellie held her close, murmuring soft words, shielding her from the chaos. In the hallway, more commotion erupted. Patricia Whitfield's voice cut through the noise. What is happening? That is my son. You cannot do this. We have connections. We know people. Patricia Whitfield? Agent Wilkins called out. Yes. Who wants to know? You are also under arrest. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Accessory after the fact. You have the right to remain silent. Patricia's scream of outrage was music to Ellie's ears. Marcus was hauled to his feet, blood dripping from his broken nose, handcuffs glinting on his wrists. You are nothing without me, he shouted at Ellie as they dragged him toward the door. Nothing, you hear me? Nothing. Ellie met his eyes. For months, she had been terrified of this man. She had cowered. She had submitted. She had believed his lies and doubted her own sanity. But looking at him now, bloody and screaming and completely powerless, she felt nothing but contempt. I am everything without you, she said quietly. It was the last thing she ever said to him. The elevator doors closed on Marcus Reddington's screaming face. Agent Wilkins approached Ellie with something close to gentleness. Mrs. Monroe, we will need your testimony for the trial, but not today. Today, take your daughter home and start building your new life. What about Dr. Mercer, the psychologist who was supposed to testify against me? Arrested at her office this morning, along with several of Marcus's business associates. Wilkins paused. And for what it is worth, I am sorry this happened to you, but because of your courage, he will never hurt anyone again. Ellie nodded slowly. Thank you. Grace burst through the door, tears streaming down her face. I am so sorry, she sobbed. Megan, the paralegal. I should have known. I should have been more careful. It does not matter now. Ellie hugged her friend with one arm, Hope cradled in the other. We won. We actually won. We won, Grace repeated, as if trying to convince herself. An hour later, Aunt Dorothy arrived with balloons shaped like gavels. For the lawyer, she announced. Every baby needs a good lawyer these days. The nurse looked confused. That is unusual. So was my fourth husband, Dorothy said cheerfully. But unusual is what keeps life interesting. For the first time in months, Ellie laughed. Really laughed. From somewhere deep in her chest. The kind of laugh that releases years of tension and fear and pain. Hope gurgled in her arms, responding to her mother's joy. And Ellie realized with sudden clarity that the nightmare was finally over. Marcus was going to prison. Patricia was going to prison. The money would be recovered. Her reputation would be restored. And her daughter would grow up free and safe and loved, never knowing how close she came to a very different life. Ellie held Hope close and walked out of the hospital into the autumn sunshine. The sky was impossibly blue. The air smelled like fallen leaves and new beginnings. And somewhere in the distance, a bird was singing. She was going home. Not to the townhouse Marcus had bought with stolen money, but to her own apartment, reclaimed and restored, waiting for her and her daughter to fill it with laughter and love. It was not the life she had planned. It was better.